I used to think getting old meant getting wise, that the grey hair and the bad knees came with some kind of shield against stupidity. But here's what nobody tells you. Desperation doesn't care how old you are, and when you're 61, alone, and tired of being invisible, you'll believe anything that makes you feel like you matter again. Even when it's wrapped around the neck of a 23-year-old girl who calls you darling in a bar off Sukhumvit Road. I didn't lose my savings to a scam. I lost them to the idea that someone like her could actually want someone like me. And that's the kind of broke you can't come back from. If our stories resonate with you, don't forget to like, comment, and tell us where you're watching from. This story was shared with us by one of our viewers, and he wanted his experience heard. I was sitting alone at a sticky bar table in a cramped soy off Sukhumvit, nursing my third beer of the night. I'd been in Bangkok for 6 weeks by then, living in a budget hotel near Nana, watching my retirement fund shrink faster than I expected. The city was loud, chaotic, overwhelming. Nothing like the quiet I imagined back in Toronto when I booked the one-way ticket. I felt invisible here, just another grey-haired Farang shuffling through crowded streets. Back home, I was invisible too. But at least there I knew the language. Here, I couldn't even order food without pointing at pictures. Then she sat down across from me without asking. She was young, painfully young, wearing a tight black dress and a gold necklace that caught the neon bar lights. She smiled at me, asked where I was from, touched my arm when I answered. I knew what this was. I'm not stupid. But when she laughed at my joke about Canadian winters, something shifted inside me. She didn't move to the next table. She stayed. We talked for an hour. She told me her name was Chalita, that she was from Aizan, working in Bangkok to send money home to her grandmother. She said she hated the bar work but had no choice. I found myself telling her things I hadn't said out loud in years. About my divorce 3 years back. About my 2 kids who stopped calling after I moved here. About retirement that felt more like exile than freedom. When she touched the gold necklace around her neck and said it was her mother's, the only thing she had left of her, I felt something crack open inside me. Not lust. Something softer and more dangerous. Should have paid my bill and walked back to my hotel alone. But I heard myself saying yes. She smiled, squeezed my hand, and I watched her disappear into the Bangkok night, the gold necklace glinting under the street lamps. I went back the next night, and the night after that. Within a week, it became my routine. Wake up at noon, teach 1 online English class to pay for dinner, then head to the bar by 8. I told myself I was just enjoying the company, that I wasn't one of those guys. But I started buying her drinks, paying her bar fine so she didn't have to work, taking her to late-night street food stalls where she ordered somtam and taught me how to eat it properly. Like this, she said, squeezing lime over the papaya salad. Not too much, just a little. I watched her eat, the way she smiled when the chili hit her tongue, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Needed. Chalita was different when we were alone. Quieter. She talked about her daughter back in Aizan, a 4-year-old being raised by her grandmother. She showed me photos on a cracked phone screen. The little girl had Chalita's eyes. She's beautiful, I said, like her mother. Chalita looked away, but I saw her smile. I found myself doing math in my head as we walked. My pension was $1,800 a month Canadian. If I was careful, if I cut back on the hotel, maybe moved somewhere cheaper, I could help her. Not a lot. Just enough that she wouldn't have to go back to the bar every night. I didn't suggest it yet. But the thought sat there, warm and tempting. One night, walking back to my hotel, Chalita looped her arm through mine. She was wearing the gold necklace again. In the streetlight, it looked almost real. "You're different," she said softly. "Most men just want one thing. But you. Listen." I felt something swell in my chest. Pride, maybe, or the ghost of mattering to someone. When we reached my hotel, she kissed my cheek and said she'd see me tomorrow. I watched her walk away, the gold necklace glinting under the flickering street lamps. I didn't notice the way she checked her phone the second she turned the corner, didn't see the way her smile dropped. 2 weeks in, Chalita started opening up about her problems. It started small. She mentioned her rent was late one night over noodles, said her landlord was threatening to kick her out. "How much do you need?" I asked. She shook her head quickly. No, I can't ask you. I'm scared. I'm offering. I'm not that kind of girl, she said, and there were tears in her eyes. I don't want you to think. That's why I spend time with you. I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. Then, a few nights later, she showed up to the bar with red eyes. She'd been crying. The other girls looked at her with something like pity, and when I asked what was wrong, she hesitated. She said, I don't want to bother you. You're not bothering me. Talk to me. The hospital in Isan wouldn't treat her without upfront payment, 15,000 baht, about 600 Canadian dollars. Chalita was frantic, desperate. I'll pick up extra shifts, she said through tears. Maybe work at another bar on my off nights. My stomach twisted at the thought of her working more, of more men buying her drinks, paying her bar fine, taking her to hotels. I'll cover it, I said before I could stop myself. No, I can't ask you to do that. You didn't ask. I'm offering. She cried harder, threw her arms around me. I felt like a hero, like I was doing something that mattered. The next day, I met her at a coffee shop, and she helped me set up an app on my phone to transfer money. I sent the 15,000 baht while she watched. She showed me a grainy photo of an old woman in a hospital bed. Her grandmother, she said. I didn't reverse image search it. Didn't question why the hospital looked so modern for a rural clinic. I just felt good. That night, Chalita wore the gold necklace again. She touched it absent-mindedly while we ate, and I noticed for the first time that the clasp looked cheap, just plastic. But I pushed the thought away. She told me I was the kindest man she'd ever met, that she wished more men were like me. I went to bed that night feeling lighter than I had in years, like maybe coming to Thailand wasn't a mistake after all. The requests came faster after that. Her phone broke. 8,000 baht to replace it. Her daughter needed school supplies, 5,000 baht. Her motorcycle broke down and she couldn't get to work without it. 12,000 baht. Each time, Chalita resisted at first. Each time, I insisted. Please, I said. Let me help you. I knew what this looked like. I wasn't completely blind, but every time I handed over money, she did something that made me believe. She cooked for me in my hotel room, pad krapao that made my eyes water and my heart race. She fell asleep on my shoulder during a movie, her breathing soft and steady. She let me meet her friend from the bar, a girl named Fon, who vouched for Chalita's story. She's one of the good ones, Fon said, smoking a cigarette outside the 7-Eleven. Not like other girls. She really cares about her family. I started to imagine a future. Maybe I could bring her to Canada, sponsor her visa, help her raise her daughter properly, away from the bars and the heat and the desperate scramble for money. I'd done the research late at night in my hotel room. It was possible, complicated, but possible. One evening, after we'd eaten street food near Victory Monument, Chalita took off the gold necklace and handed it to me. What are you doing? I asked. I want you to hold this, she said. It's the only valuable thing I own. If something happens to me, I want you to have it. My throat tightened. I tried to give it back, but she closed my fingers around it. Please, she said. It makes me feel safe knowing you have it. I took it. The chain felt light in my hand. Too light, maybe. But I told myself that was just because it was delicate. Old gold was different than new gold. That night, I put it in the hotel safe. It sat there like a promise. 2 days later, Chalita called me in tears. I was teaching an online class to a kid in Shanghai when my phone started buzzing. I muted my microphone and answered. She was sobbing so hard she could barely speak. My grandmother, she choked, out. She died. This morning. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I have to go back to Isan. The funeral is in 3 days. But I don't have money for the bus, for the cremation, for anything. I don't know what to do. Her voice cracked and my heart broke with it. I didn't hesitate. Didn't think. I told her I'd call her back in 5 minutes, ended my class early, and went to the nearest ATM. I wired her 40,000 baht. Over 1,500 Canadian dollars. Nearly a full month of my pension. She thanked me through broken breaths. Said she'd pay me back. Said she didn't know what she'd do without me. Don't worry about the money, I said. Just take care of yourself. I'll be here when you get back. She left that night. I didn't hear from her for 3 days. On the 4th day, I started to worry. Chalita hadn't answered my messages. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I told myself it was fine. She was in a village somewhere in Isan, probably bad reception, dealing with grief and family and funeral arrangements. Of course, she couldn't respond. On the 6th day, I went to the bar. The other girls looked at me strangely when I walked in. One of them, Fawn, the friend who'd vouched for Chalita, avoided my eyes. "Where is she?" I asked. Fawn shrugged. "She quit. Maybe she went home." My chest tightened. I showed her my phone, the 15 messages I'd sent. She said she'd be back by now. The funeral was 3 days ago. Another girl laughed. Not cruelly, but knowingly. She was older, maybe 35, with tired eyes. "Farang," she said, shaking her head. "You give her money?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. They all knew. The bartender looked at me with something like pity and poured me a whiskey I didn't order. I went back to my hotel and checked the safe. The gold necklace was still there. I took it out, examined it under the bathroom light. The chain was thin. The clasp was plastic, not gold. The color was already rubbing off near the edges, showing cheap metal underneath. I felt something cold settle into my stomach. The next morning, I took the necklace to a gold shop near Pratunam. The shop was small, cluttered with display cases full of jewelry. The owner was an old Chinese Thai man who barely looked up when I walked in. "Is this real gold?" I asked, holding out the necklace. He took it, glanced at it for less than 5 seconds, and handed it back. "Not gold," he said flatly in English. "Costume jewelry, maybe 100 baht. You buy at Bobe Market." I walked out in a daze. I sat on a plastic stool outside a 7-Eleven, staring at the fake necklace in my hand. Around me, Bangkok roared on. Motorbikes weaving through traffic, street vendors shouting, tourists laughing, taking selfies, living their Instagram dreams. I tried calling Chalita again. The number was disconnected. Back in my hotel room, I opened my banking app. I hadn't checked it in weeks. I'd been avoiding it, actually, telling myself it was fine, that I was being careful with money. I wasn't. In 2 months, I'd sent Chalita over 120,000 baht, nearly 4,500 Canadian dollars. That was 3 months of my pension. Gone. I scrolled through the transactions, each one a small wound. The grandmother's medicine, the rent, the phone, the motorcycle, the funeral. None of it was real. Lyle feels something break inside him, not anger, not yet, just a deep, humiliating sadness. I was 61 years old. I should have known better. I thought about my ex-wife, Karen, how she used to call me gullible, how she'd warned me about a bad investment I made in 2015, some cryptocurrency scheme that cost us $12,000. "You just want to believe people," she'd said during one of our last fights. "You want to believe everyone's good. But they're not, Lyle. They're just not." My kids stopped talking to me after the divorce, not because of Karen, but because I kept asking them for money. Small amounts, 500 here, 300 there. I told them I was getting back on my feet. They eventually stopped answering my calls. I came to Thailand to escape that, to start over, to prove I could be smarter, more independent, more careful. Instead, I got scammed by a 23-year-old bar girl with a fake gold necklace and a rehearsed sob story. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling fan. It spun slowly, wobbling slightly, making a clicking sound every rotation. The necklace sat on the nightstand, catching the afternoon light. Even now, it looked almost real. That was the cruelest part. It looked real enough. I couldn't let it go. For the next week, I walked Sukhumvit every night, checking the bars, showing Chalita's photo to anyone who'd look. Most people ignored me. A few laughed. One bartender, a guy with a shaved head and a dragon tattoo on his neck, told me there were dozens of girls running the same game. "Gold necklace?" he said, lighting a cigarette. "Yeah, I've seen that one. They buy them at Bobai Market, 50 baht each. Sometimes they use the same story. Sick grandmother, broken phone, dead mother. Whatever works. How many guys fall for it?" Every week, someone new. He looked at me with something between pity and contempt. You're not special, man. You're just the next one. I felt sick. I hired a local fixer, a guy I found through an expat Facebook group. He said his name was Somchai, that he knew people, that he could track anyone in Bangkok for the right price. 5,000 baht. I paid it up front. He disappeared after 2 days. Didn't answer his phone. Blocked me online. I'd been scammed twice now. I went to the tourist police station near Lumpini Park. The officer at the desk was young, bored, scrolling through his phone. He barely looked up when I started explaining. You gave her money willingly? He asked in accented English. Yes, but she lied. She said it was for her grandmother, for her daughter, for emergencies. But you gave money willingly. She manipulated me. He shrugged. Then it's not a crime. You give gift. She take gift. This is not robbery. It's fraud. Did she sign paper? Make promise to pay back? No, but then nothing we can do. He went back to his phone. I wanted to argue. Wanted to explain that it was a crime, that she lied, that she manipulated me, but I saw the look in his eyes, the same look the bartender gave me, the same look I'd been getting from everyone. You're just another stupid farang. I left the station and walked back to my hotel in the rain. It came down hard, the way it does in Bangkok during monsoon season. My shirt stuck to my skin. My shoes squelched with every step. I was drenched, exhausted, broke. Somewhere in this city, Chalita was laughing, maybe spending my money, maybe running the same scam on someone else, showing them a different fake gold necklace, telling them a different sob story. Maybe her grandmother was still alive. Maybe she didn't even have a daughter. I thought about going home. But what was waiting for me there? An empty apartment in Scarborough I'd given up when I left. Kids who didn't call, a pension that was now too small to live on, not after losing 3 months of it. At least here, I'd had hope for a little while. I started spending time in expat forums online, reading stories from other men. They all sounded the same. Different names, different faces, but the same structure. The sick grandmother, the broken phone, the motorcycle accident, the gold necklace, the ghost after the money was gone. I read one post from an Australian guy who lost $12,000 over 4 months. Another from a Brit who maxed out 3 credit cards sending money to a girl in Pattaya. A German who sold his car back home to wire money for a fake medical emergency. They all felt the same shame I did. Most of them were too embarrassed to report it. A few tried, like me, and got nowhere. One guy, a retired American named Walt, reached out to me via private message. He said he'd been through the same thing, asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. We met at a place near Asok Station. Walt was 72, thin, weathered, with sun-damaged skin and yellow teeth. He'd been in Bangkok for 5 years. Walt said, stirring his coffee slowly. Over 6 months. Different girl. Same game. She worked in a go-go bar in Nana. Told me she loved me. That she wanted to quit and move to America with me. Did you ever find her? Walt shook his head. She's gone. They always are. That's the point. Soon as they get enough money, they disappear. New phone, new name, new bar. You'll never see her again. We sat in silence for a while. Around us, the city hummed with life. Tourists taking photos of street food. Locals rushing to work. Monks walking past with alms bowls. Life moved on. It always did. You thinking about going home? Walt asked. I shrugged. I don't know. What's the point? Walt leaned back in his chair, studying me with tired eyes. The point is, you stop letting this city eat you alive. You either accept what happened and move on, or you let it destroy you. I've seen both. Seen guys drink themselves to death. Seen guys jump off buildings. Seen guys just disappear into the slums and never come out. Which one are you? Walt smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Still deciding. He wrote his number on a napkin, said I could call him any time. We paid for our coffees and walked out into the heat. I never called him. I couldn't, because calling him meant admitting I needed help, and I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. I moved to a cheaper hotel in Ramkhamhaeng, far from Sukhumvit. The room was smaller, dingier, with stained walls and a bathroom that smelled like mildew. But it was 3,000 baht a month, and that was all I could afford now. My pension barely covered rent and food. I stopped going out, stopped drinking, stopped looking for Chalita. I started working part-time, teaching English online to Chinese kids for $8 an hour. It was humiliating. I was 61, a retired tradesman who'd spent 30 years doing electrical work in Toronto, and now I was smiling at a webcam at 6 in the morning, correcting pronunciation for children who could barely understand me. Repeat after me. I'd say, exhausted and hollow. The cat is on the mat. The cat is on the mat. They'd echo back. And I'd give them a thumbs up and a fake smile, but it was money, and money was the only thing that mattered now. I thought about the gold necklace sometimes. I still had it, shoved in a drawer under some clothes. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. It was evidence, maybe, or a reminder. I wasn't sure which. One night, lying in bed with the fan rattling overhead, I did the full calculation. Between the money I gave Chalita and the costs of searching for her, the fixer, the extra hotel nights when I was walking Sukhumvit looking for leads, the meals at bars trying to find someone who knew her, I was down almost 6,000 Canadian dollars, half a year's pension, gone. I could have used that money to visit my kids, to fix my teeth, which were starting to ache in the back, to buy a plane ticket home and start over somewhere quieter, cheaper, safer. Instead, I bought a lie. And the worst part was, I knew it was a lie. Not at first, maybe, but somewhere in the middle, when the requests kept coming and the stories got flimsier, when she asked for funeral money and I knew funerals in Thailand didn't cost that much, I knew. I just didn't want to admit it. Because admitting it meant admitting I was alone, that nobody actually wanted me, that the only way a 23-year-old girl would spend time with me was if I paid her, and that truth was worse than the scam. 3 months later, I saw her. I was walking through MBK Center, buying cheap clothes from a shop on the 3rd floor, when I spotted her on the escalator going up. She was wearing new clothes, designer, jeans, a leather jacket that probably cost more than I made in a month. Her hair was different, cut shorter, dyed lighter. But it was her, Chalita. My heart hammered in my chest. My hands started shaking. I followed her. She went into a phone shop, browsed casually, laughed with the clerk about something. I stood outside, watching through the glass. She looked happy, unbothered. Like nothing had ever happened. Like I'd never existed. I should have walked away. I knew I should, but my feet moved on their own, and suddenly I was inside the shop, standing 3 feet away from her. She turned. Our eyes met. For a second, maybe less. There was recognition, a flicker of something in her face. Then it went blank. Smooth. Professional. Do I know you? She asked in Thai-accented English. Polite. Distant. Like I was a stranger asking for directions. My voice cracked. It's me, Lyle, from the bar, near Sukhumvit. We spent weeks together. Sorry, she said, smiling like I was nobody. I think you have wrong person. She turned back to the clerk, said something in Thai, and they both laughed. I just stood there, frozen. The clerk looked at me. Can I help you, sir? I shook my head, walked out. My legs felt like water. I sat on a bench outside the shop, staring at nothing. People streamed past me, families with shopping bags, couples holding hands, teenagers glued to their phones, filming TikToks. Chalita walked out 10 minutes later, shopping bags in both hands. She walked past me, close enough that I could smell her perfume. She didn't look at me, didn't even glance my way. She'd already forgotten me. Or maybe she never remembered me at all. Maybe I was just one of dozens. Hundreds. A face and a bank account, nothing more. I watched her disappear into the crowd, and something inside me finally let go. Not forgiveness. Not closure. Just exhaustion. I took out my phone, opened my banking app, and looked at my balance. 8,400 baht, about 320 Canadian dollars. Enough for 2 more weeks maybe, then I'd have to wait for my pension to come through again. I closed the app and stood up. I didn't follow her. I didn't scream or cry or make a scene. I just walked away. I moved again, this time to a guest house in Minburi, on the outskirts of Bangkok. The room was barely bigger than a prison cell. No air conditioning, a mattress on the floor, shared bathroom down the hall that always smelled like sewage. But it was 3,000 baht a month, and that was all that mattered. I taught English in the mornings, delivered food on a rented motorbike in the afternoons. The work was brutal in the heat, 40-degree days, with humidity that made it feel like 50. But it kept me busy, kept me from thinking. I made friends with another Farang at the guest house, a 67-year-old Brit named Colin who'd been in Thailand for 20 years. Colin drank too much, smoked too much, talked too much. But he was company. One night, sitting outside on plastic chairs with a bottle of cheap whiskey between us, I told Colin the whole story. The bar, Chalita, the necklace, the money, all of it. Colin listened, nodding occasionally, smoking his cigarette down to the filter. When I finished, he just shrugged. "Yeah," he said. "That's Bangkok. That's it? That's all you've got?" Colin lit another cigarette, leaned back in his chair. "What do you want me to say? That you're special? That it doesn't happen to everyone?" "It does. It happened to me in Pattaya in 2003. Lost 200,000 baht to a girl who said she loved me. Told me she wanted to marry me. Have my kids. I even bought her a ring. Took me a year to stop being angry about it. And then what? Then I just lived. You can't get the money back. You can't get the time back. So you either leave or you stay and make peace with it." "And you stayed." Colin nodded, exhaling smoke into the night air. "I stayed. I looked out at the dark street, the flickering streetlights, the stray dogs roaming." "Why?" Colin took a long drag, exhaled slowly. "Because it's still cheaper than dying alone in Manchester." We sat in silence after that, the whiskey burning warm in my chest. The truth of what he said settled over me like a blanket. Heavy and suffocating, but somehow comforting too. 6 months passed. I fell into a rhythm. Wake up, teach English, deliver food, eat rice and fried egg. Sleep. Repeat. I stopped checking expat forums, stopped thinking about Chalita, stopped imagining what I'd say if I saw her again. The gold necklace was still in my drawer. I thought about selling it once, but nobody wanted fake gold. So it just sat there, a $2 reminder of a $6,000 mistake. I got an email from my daughter one morning. Sarah. She was getting married. Wanted to know if I'd come back to Canada for the wedding. She didn't say she wanted me to walk her down the aisle. Didn't say she missed me. Just asked if I could make it. I did the math. Flights from Bangkok to Toronto were at least $1,200. Hotel for a few nights. Suit rental. Food. It would cost more than I had. More than I'd have for months. I wrote back that night. "Can't make it. Congrats. Love you." She didn't reply. I went back to work. Delivered pad thai to a condo in Ekamai. Taught a kid in Shenzhen how to pronounce restaurant. Ate rice and fried egg for dinner. Watched pirated movies on my phone until I fell asleep. It wasn't the retirement I imagined, but it was what I had. One evening, walking home from a delivery, I passed a new bar opening on a side street. Music thumped from inside, electronic and loud. Girls stood outside in tight dresses, waving at passing men. "Hey, handsome," one of them called. "Come inside. Have one drink." I stopped walking. Just for a second. The girl smiled at me. She was young, pretty, wearing a gold bracelet that caught the light from the street lamp. She tilted her head, beckoned me closer with one finger. "Come," she said in soft English. "I buy you drink." I looked at her, at the bracelet, at the smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I shook my head and kept walking. Behind me, the girl's smile faded. She turned to the next Farang passing by, an older white guy with a beer gut and a camera around his neck. Her smile came back immediately, bright and practiced. I didn't look back. Late one night, Unable to sleep, I opened a blank document on my phone and started typing. I didn't know why. Maybe it was closure. Maybe it was just something to do. Dear Chalita, I know you'll never read this. I know you probably don't even remember my name, but I need to write it anyway. I was angry for a long time. I wanted to find you, to confront you, to make you admit what you did. But I don't think you'd care. I don't think it would change anything. You took my money. That's a fact. But I gave it to you. That's also a fact. I told myself you manipulated me, that you were a master con artist, that I never had a chance. But the truth is, I wanted to believe you. I needed to believe you. Because believing you meant I wasn't just another lonely old man paying for company. I've thought a lot about that necklace. The fake gold one. I still have it. I don't know why. Maybe because it's the only proof that you existed, that any of it happened. I'm not writing this to make you feel bad. I don't think you would, anyway. I'm writing it because I need to say it out loud. I was lonely, and you saw that, and you used it, and I let you. I don't forgive you, but I don't hate you either. I just understand now. This is what you do. This is how you survive. And I was just another transaction. I hope your daughter is okay. I hope your grandmother, if she was ever real, is resting in peace. I hope you're safe. And I hope, someday, you meet someone who sees you as more than a mark. The same way I hope, someday, someone sees me as more than a wallet. But I don't think either of us will get that lucky. Lyle. I read it over once, twice, then I deleted it. There was no point. She'd never see it. And even if she did, it wouldn't matter. I closed my phone and stared at the ceiling. The room was hot. The fan rattled overhead, the same clicking sound it always made. Outside, a dog barked. Somewhere in the building, someone was arguing in Thai. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep. A year later, I was still in Bangkok, still in the same guest house in Minburi, still teaching English online, still delivering food on my motorbike. My pension arrived every month, and I made it stretch. 1,600 a month now, after the exchange rate changed. I didn't go to bars anymore. Didn't talk to pretty girls who smiled too easily. I wasn't bitter about it. I was just done. I made friends with a street vendor near my place, an old Thai woman who sold grilled chicken from a cart. She didn't speak much English, and I didn't speak much Thai, but we understood each other. She gave me extra rice sometimes, when I bought dinner. I helped her fold up her cart at night, push it back to her house down the soy. It was a small life. Quiet. Unremarkable. My daughter sent me photos sometimes. Her wedding, her new apartment in Ottawa. A sonogram. She was pregnant. I stared at the grainy image on my phone screen, my future grandchild, and felt something twist in my chest. I wouldn't meet this kid, wouldn't be there for birthdays or holidays or first steps. I'd just be the grandfather who lived far away and never visited, the one they'd hear about but never really know. I thought about going home sometimes. But the math didn't work. I couldn't afford rent in Canada anymore, couldn't afford the winter heating bills or the cost of groceries or a car. I was stuck here now, in this hot, chaotic city that chewed me up and spit me out. But I was still here. That counted for something. One evening, Colin asked me if I regretted it, coming to Thailand, losing the money, all of it. We were sitting outside again, same plastic chairs, same cheap whiskey. I thought for a long time before answering. I don't know, I said finally. I regret being stupid. But I don't regret trying. Colin nodded slowly, sipping his whiskey. That's the best you can hope for, mate. Later that night, after Colin went to bed, I went back to my room and took the gold necklace out of the drawer. I held it up to the light one last time. The fake gold glinted weakly, the chain already tarnished and green in spots. I walked outside, down the narrow alley behind the guest house, to the klong that ran through Minburi. The water was black and still, reflecting nothing. I tossed the necklace in. It disappeared without a sound. I didn't feel lighter, didn't feel relieved or free or healed, but it was gone, and that was enough. I walked back to my room, climbed into bed, and closed my eyes. Tomorrow I'd wake up, teach English to kids in China, deliver somtam and pad see ew to condos across Bangkok, eat rice and egg for dinner. The same routine, the same small life, but I was still here, still breathing, still surviving. And maybe that was the only victory I'd ever get.